Okay, let's dive straight into this. Today, we're unpacking the extraordinary early life of a guy whose name is basically synonymous with sporting greatness, Lionel Messi. Now, when we look at him today, we see the 8 Ballon d'Or, the historic World Cup triumph, and a guy who spent well over a decade just completely dismantling the greatest defenses in Europe. But before all the global stardom, there was just a quiet kid in Rosario, Argentina. And as we'll see as we go through this explainer, his journey to the top was anything but guaranteed. Actually, scratch that, it was almost permanently derailed before it ever even truly began.
So, to guide our analysis today, we really have to anchor our exploration on this one super provocative question. How on earth did a kid with a severe growth disorder become an absolute giant of the game? I mean, this isn't your standard run-of-the-mill sports biography. We're talking about a classic underdog story that required unimaginable sacrifices from his family, a literal transatlantic leap of faith, and this undeniable, unteachable talent that simply couldn't be ignored.
Section 1, The Kid from Rosario, Finding His Feet in Argentina. To really understand the legend, we first have to meet the kid. Lionel Andres Messi was born in June 1987 in the working-class neighborhoods of Rosario, Argentina. He came from a super tight-knit family. His dad, Jorge, was a steel factory worker, and his mom, Celia, worked in a magnet manufacturing workshop. And football? Well, it was deeply, deeply woven into this family's DNA. By the time he was 4 years old, he was already playing for a local club, Abandonado Grandoli, where his dad actually coached him. But his absolute biggest champion early on was his maternal grandmother, who was also named Celia. She was the one taking him to training, taking him to matches, and just pushing him to play from literally the moment he could walk. Sadly, she passed away shortly before his 11th birthday, and it affected him deeply. It's actually the reason why, on the biggest stages in the world, his iconic goal celebration involves looking up and pointing 2 fingers to the sky. He's always paying tribute to her memory. Now, his early progression was just startlingly rapid. He starts at Grandoli at age 4, right? But by age 6, his talent is already demanding a bigger stage. So he moves to the Rosario-based club Newell's Old Boys. During his 6 years there, he scored almost 500 goals. I mean, he was the star of this nearly unbeatable youth squad that people nicknamed the Machine of '87. He was literally out there entertaining crowds by doing ball tricks at halftime during the senior team's matches. But just as he's building this incredible momentum, right at age 10, the timeline hits a massive looming roadblock. Now, what's really interesting here is this stark contrast in his early playing days, highlighted perfectly by his Newell's youth coach, Adrian Correa. He recalled looking at Messi and thinking he was just too fragile, way too small to make it in such a physical sport. But the second the ball touched his feet, all those doubts just completely vanished. His incredibly low center of gravity and that tight, close control were already forming the playing style the whole world would eventually recognize. But still, his physical stature was becoming a glaring, unavoidable issue compared to all the other boys his age.
Section 2, A Devastating Diagnosis, The Obstacle That Threatened Everything.
Just when his talent was becoming the talk of Rosario, this medical diagnosis drops that threatened to pull him off the pitch forever. At 10 years old, doctors diagnosed him with growth hormone deficiency, or GHD. Basically, his body just wasn't producing the hormones required for physical development. I mean, try to imagine the heartbreak for a young boy whose entire existence revolved around playing football. And overcoming this wasn't just a matter of waiting for a late growth spurt. It required daily, painful injections just to stimulate normal growth. Plus, beyond the physical toll this took on a kid, there was a massive, seemingly insurmountable financial barrier. The whole situation essentially boiled down to one crushing number: 1,000. That represented 1,000 pesos per month, which was the minimum cost of his required hormone therapy. For a working-class family in Argentina, that amount was just devastating. His dad's health insurance only covered the first 2 years of the treatment, and after that ran out, they simply couldn't afford it. Without this medical intervention, Messi's physical development was going to stall entirely. So naturally, the family desperately looks to local clubs for a lifeline. But they quickly got trapped in local club politics. His own club, Newell's Old Boys, initially agreed to help with the medical costs, but eventually backed out of their promise. Then you have River Plate, this prestigious Buenos Aires club where Messi's absolute idol, Pablo Aimar, played. River Plate actually scouted him, watched him score 4 goals in a trial, and they offered to pay. Future was gridlocked by financial constraints and club politics.
Section 3, The Napkin Contract, a desperate gamble across the Atlantic.
Let's move to how this builds, because with all local doors firmly shut, the family is forced to look thousands of kilometers away for a solution. Through family connections in Catalonia, 13-year-old Messi travels to Spain in September 2000 for a trial with FC Barcelona. Sporting director Carlos Reixach wanted to sign him immediately, but the club's board was hesitating. Signing a foreign 13-year-old was virtually unheard of back then. So after months of delays, Messi's camp basically issues an ultimatum. And on December 14, 2000, feeling the intense pressure and lacking official paperwork during a meeting at a tennis club, Reixach grabs literally the only thing available, a paper napkin, and writes out an agreement to sign the boy. It plays out exactly like a cinematic heist movie, a moment of pure desperation that secured Barcelona the ultimate prize. But beneath all the excitement of passing a European trial, there was a massive emotional weight for a 13-year-old kid. He wasn't just joining a football academy, he was relocating across the globe. He faced severe cultural and language barriers, and he was so reserved by nature that his new teammates in Spain initially thought he was mute. Perhaps the most heart-wrenching detail of all this is the family separation. The transition was so unbelievably difficult that his mom, his brothers, and his younger sister eventually had to move back to Rosario. Messi was left in an apartment in Barcelona alone with his dad. Just think about that, a quiet, homesick teenager administering his own daily hormone injections in a foreign land.
Section 4. Rise to the first team. Conquering La Masia and beyond.
Once he finally settled in, and with Barcelona honoring their promise to cover his medical treatments, Messi's football could finally do the talking at their famous La Masia Academy. And one specific event from this time honestly feels like a comic book superhero origin story. During a Copa Catalunya final, a game that is now legendary in club lore as the Partido de la Máscara, or the Final of the Mask, Messi was forced to wear this bulky, protective plastic mask because he had broken his cheekbone a week earlier. The thing was hindering his vision, it was uncomfortable, so right in the middle of the game, he just rips it off, tosses it aside, and proceeds to score 2 goals in 10 minutes. It perfectly captures the energy of his relentless, unstoppable determination to succeed. From there, his speed through the youth system was just absolutely breakneck. During the 2003-2004 season, he didn't just climb the ranks, he basically teleported through them. He played for 4 different teams in a single campaign. He started with the Cadets A, jumped to the Juvenile A, then moved up to play against grown men for Barcelona C in the 3rd division, where, by the way, he saved them from relegation and scored a hat-trick in 8 minutes, before finally debuting for Barcelona B. It's a progression rate that completely shattered everyone's expectations. And this brilliantly illustrates the awe he inspired when he finally reached the top floor with seasoned professionals. Ludovic Juli, an established winger for Barcelona at the time, recalled Messi's first training sessions with the senior squad. Juli noted that this teenager was completely destroying them, just casually dribbling past 4 veteran players at a time. He said even the team's starting center backs were nervous to face him. His conclusion was simple. He was an alien. So all of that hardship, all of those painful injections, the homesickness, the sacrifices, it all culminated right here. On October 16, 2004, at just 17 years old, Lionel Messi makes his official La Liga debut for the Barcelona first team. Taken under the wing of established superstars like Ronaldinho, who famously called him his little brother, Messi finally stepped onto the professional stage. It marked the definitive end of his childhood struggle and the beginning of an absolutely golden era for the club. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today, and I want to leave you with one provocative thought. If one club hadn't gambled on a paper napkin, would the world have ever known its greatest player? It really leaves you marveling at the sheer fragility of destiny, doesn't it? A boy whose entire career hung in the balance over a medical bill, who endured immense personal sacrifice just to forge a legacy that will be remembered for as long as football is played. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the incredible origins of the phenomenon that is Lionel Messi. Catch you next time.